In Austin, I'm Quita Culpepper. Millions of dollars in federal funding for a major project in Austin is now off the table. A city memo confirms Austin is no longer getting $105 million for the Cap and Stitch project to build columns to support parks over I-35. The aim of that project was to connect downtown and East Austin. The city says those funds were part of a grant program that was cut in Congress's so-called One Big Beautiful Bill. At the state capitol, Texas Senate panel advanced the proposed new congressional map after hearing hours of public feedback on Thursday. It now goes to the full Senate for consideration. Senate Bill 4 is the same map as what the House proposed. It would significantly change districts in Austin, Houston, North Texas, and the Rio Grande Valley. President Trump wants Texas to secure 5 more Republican congressional seats. Committee Chair State Senator Phil King says the map was drawn with political performance as the top priority, and he's confident that map is legal.
I didn't adopt it because it's the House's bill. I adopted it because it achieved those objectives that I mentioned of improving compactness and most importantly, performing better from a partisan perspective.
Democrat Boris Miles called the redistricting push racist by breaking apart minority communities and diluting the voting power of communities of color.
This is all about race. You have packed and cracked our districts so much that they look like Humpty Dumpty. These lines are not cohesive or straight. All you have done is gerrymandered the already gerrymandered districts.
Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick says he expects the full Senate will take up the map in the early part of next week. Austin's Watershed Protection Department is investigating after several fish were found dead at Miller Lake Park in central East Austin. Our cameras captured crews out there checking on conditions around the water. Crews haven't said what killed those fish just yet, but they are asking anyone who sees potential water pollution to report it to 311. A restaurant owner in North Austin says he's facing thousands of dollars in repairs after a truck crashed into their building Sunday morning. Jessica Cha spoke with the owner who says this isn't the first time they've experienced something like this.
They've already done electrical, insulation.
Gusto Italian Kitchen is under renovation.
This is normally where our host stand is.
But founder Cameron Lockley says it's not because they're going for a new look.
When the truck hit, all of that got busted, hit furniture.
According to APD, around 3:30 in the morning, a witness reported a car speeding down Burnett Road, driving erratically in a parking lot before crashing right into this building. Now, they said the car was left behind, but the driver was missing.
Completely tearing out the fence there and then ended up into the landscaping behind you there.
Mangled metal framing, bricks scattered everywhere, and wine bottles shattered. Lockley says they'll have to be closed for the next 2 weeks for repairs.
If I had to guess, this is around $100,000 of repairs.
And most would feel shocked after an accident like this, but Lockley says it feels like deja vu.
2 years ago, it was a young teenager speeding in the early hours of the morning. So this seems to happen when it's dark and nobody's on the road outside, fortunately. So that means nobody's been in the restaurant when it's been hit.
We asked the City of Austin's Transportation and Public Works Office about traffic conditions on the road. They say there were 2 additional crashes in the area this year, but they say there were no injuries and less than $1,000 worth of damage. They also say the city is doing work to provide mobility upgrades to Burnett Road to keep it safer. Something Lockley is working on too.
The landlord's gonna put in some structural barriers on the east side of the building to hopefully prevent this from ever happening again.
Hoping a third time isn't the magic number. In North Austin, Jessica Cha, KVUE News.
A historic milestone for the Cedar Park company Firefly Aerospace. Firefly launched into the public market Thursday, trading on the NASDAQ under the ticker symbol FLY. Just a few days ago, the company bumped its initial stock price up to between $41 and $43 per share. The company gained traction after becoming the first commercial company to land on the moon back in March. Firefly closed Thursday above $60 a share. Dell is investing in its Round Rock headquarters. Filings with the state show the tech giant is planning a $1.7 million renovation starting next month. Dell will convert conference rooms into a larger innovation center showroom. The project covers nearly 6,700 square feet and should be done by the end of the year. Dell employs about 13,000 people at its Round Rock campus. Just over a month after floods swept through central Texas, cleanup efforts continue in Sandy Creek. And as neighbors sift through debris, a piece of prehistoric history was uncovered. Brianna Perez takes a closer look at the dinosaur print that was found and what experts have to say.
As cleanup continues in Sandy Creek, a piece of history was uncovered.
So whenever there's any kind of cataclysmic event, floods, things that are very destructive to our human experience, they also are uncovering a lot of new fossils.
Matthew Brown, paleontologist at UT Austin, says he was called out to take a closer look.
Along Sandy Creek are these three-toed bird-like tracks.
Paleontologists came out here to the Sandy Creek area to take a look at the newly uncovered fossils for themselves. And when they got here, they say that they were actually located on private property, making it hard to see. They say that they were covered in vegetation, but once that flood came through, it exposed the new track.
So we think that this probably came from a dinosaur like Acrocanthosaurus, which was a big meat-eating theropod dinosaur. So it walked on two legs. It superficially would have looked kind of like a Tyrannosaurus rex, even though those two species lived about 40 million years apart.
Brown says this dinosaur lived more than 115 million years ago. And around that time, it was not uncommon to see a handful of different species of dinosaurs in central Texas, including big plant eaters like sauropods.
So to be able to see the footprints, this track in the ground, on the site where these dinosaurs were actually walking really sort of brings home the reality that these were living creatures that would have been, you know, if we lived 115 million years ago, would have been sharing the environment with us.
He says next they plan to use drones for aerial photography and laser surface scanners to create 3D replicas to study the area. Brown advises anyone who comes across a fossil during the flood cleanup to take a photo and email it to experts so they can examine it later without damaging the discovery. Reporting in Sandy Creek, Brianna Perez, KVUE News.
Those are the headlines in Austin. I'm Quita Culpepper.